So welcome. I'm Lisa Melendy, the Director of Athletics. And it's a special time, it's an exciting time for you, I know, to drop your kids off. And if it's your first one, a different feeling than if it's your last one. I understand that. I'm not quite there yet, but I understand that difference. And I have one short piece of business before we do a little bit of program, which is if your child is on an athletic roster, you're going to be getting an email about athletic insurance. And it's going to ask you some questions. Please fill that out and return it, and hopefully we never need that information, but if we do, it's important to have that, so don't delete that right away. Thank you. I know you're getting a lot of emails from Williams, but so again, we're just going to go over a few things today. I wanted to just tell you our coaches will speak after. I'll have some brief remarks. We'll have here for some coaches, and we'll have some time for questions at the end. Allison Swain, our women's tennis coach, Megan Gillis, our women's ice hockey coach, Kevin App, men's basketball, and Nate Hoey, women's track and field. So just want to talk a little bit about what our program is about, and we're really trying to stress in everything that Williams students do, there's this real striving for excellence, and we do that in athletics as well. We have 32 collegiate teams, intercollegiate teams, about 750 athletes on any given year, 6 junior varsity teams. As you can see, there's some club sports programming that's run through student activities and intramural sports, and also physical education classes that are a part of the graduation requirement here at Williams if your children didn't read the fine print, but that is part of what they're going to do here as well. So every single student in the college comes through our department, and we get to meet everyone, and it's a lot of fun. We do have a lot of success here at Williams, which is a lot of fun for us, and we hope to celebrate that and enjoy those moments when they come. But we're really focused more on the personal growth of our athletes. What can we help them develop as young people and as students and as members of their communities going forward? And we also try to talk about how we define success here. As I said, we get a good share of wins here, but that's not really what we consider the measure of our success, and our coaches will reflect on that a little bit. We're defining success for athletes a little bit more around their academic lives, their engagement in the community here, in this liberal arts experiment that we're all engaged in, successful teaching by our coaches, and the personal growth of our athletes. We're trying a lot to impart passion. Our coaches, as we hire them in particular, we're looking for their great depth of knowledge in their subject area and their passion for their sport and their ability to share that with their students. And you have some good examples here today of people who I think do that quite well. And so we really wanted to share that with them, ignite their excitement about their sport and their participation at a new level, maybe than they've done in the past. The other thing that we try to focus on a lot that can be really different than a high school experience and definitely different than the club experience. More and more student athletes are coming out of a pretty strictly club experience or an individual sport type model. We really want to talk about building teams here where we're working together as a collective group. And again, like I said, for some students this will feel different than it has. And so that's a lot of work that our coaches do that might feel really different for your athletes. And we all, want what's best for our student athletes and your children. And we just want to talk a little bit about how we think of us partnering together to make this the most positive and successful experience possible for these students. And so that you leave here knowing that your students are well cared for, that we care deeply for them, even though there are some bumps in the roads for them all. This is a real period of transition. They're moving again from your houses, their teams, to the new, to living on their own a little bit. And like I said, we want to think about how do we help them navigate this landscape? How are we as supportive as possible? I can tell you I'm the mother of 3 children whose kids played, and you guys have heard this every year, although the number changes because I do a recount, who played on 17 different youth sports teams last year. So that's a lot of water bottles, a lot of laundry, a lot of driving, a lot of sitting in both hot and cold weather in really uncomfortable lawn chairs or bleachers. So I know that it takes a lot to support your child's love of sports, to have them be in a place like this where they might have a chance to play. So I really appreciate that. And a short story that I've been telling for a few years now, so if you've been here before, again, bear with me because you will have heard it. But about 4 years ago or so, my daughter's a soccer player. I used to be the soccer coach at Williams College. And I'm watching the game play. My daughter didn't start. She's not in the game. And I'm watching the game. And I'm watching it how I watch it. I'm watching on a turnover. How's the defense setting up? We win the ball. What kind of runs is the attack making? Who's marking up? Are they spreading the field? Then my daughter came into the game. Suddenly, she was the only thing on the field. And I'm watching every movement that she's making. I don't see anybody else. And I really had an epiphany at that moment that oh, this is how a parent watches a game. which is really different than how I, for 17 years, had watched my team play, how I'd been trained to watch it. And so that's why I think sometimes there's parents and coaches are literally seeing a different athletic event. And so sometimes the communication around that and the things that they're looking for can be different, and just sort of understanding that. What we're hoping to evaluate the players on, again, are a lot of different measures, and we're also trying to measure their success on a lot of different metrics. And all of these students here at Williams College today are overachieving students, right? They all want to work really hard. They're all used to being very successful. And there are going to be moments, I know you've already heard this today, where they won't be as successful in a particular area as they think they have been in the past, right? So sports is sometimes one of those places for them. And so we're really trying to think about how do we, again, support a child through that. How are we helpful to them? Again, we start really by trying to define success for them differently. Like I said, about building teams. Team membership is its own joy and its own reward. So really trying to have student athletes understand what a gift it is to be on a team and have that camaraderie, to have these great coaches helping you work on skills and techniques and life lessons, and that perhaps your old measures of, am I a captain, am I a starter, am I playing X number of minutes, you're best to sort of try to leave those at the door and think about the new things that you're gaining in terms of health and fitness and camaraderie and continued growth. So again, trying to help them deal with what might feel like failure. And one of our coaches on the panel said a few years ago, and it really stuck with me, if you're okay with their role on the team, they're likely to be okay with the role on the team. Because, lots of their lives are about making you proud, and I know they have, and they want to keep doing that, and they don't want to disappoint you, and they want to call after the game and talk about how the game went, and maybe they played, maybe they didn't, and they want to hear that that's okay. And I think that that's true. Again, it was a parent talking about that, and I hope we can work together on that. I found this quote a few years ago. It was in a Boston Globe article from Kathleen Hirsch, just talking again about we disservice our children when we lose perspective and when we don't leave room for those failures through which children tell us who they really are. We show them our love when we set aside expectations and watch, holding our breath as they wander down paths we never imagined to discover their own true gifts. And I think that's a bit of our challenge, is to watch them stumble, and coaches need to do that too. And how do they learn in that moment? How do they grow in that moment? We talk a lot about resiliency in our coaching, and how do we foster that in our children? And sports is a great vehicle for learning that, if we can kind of let them learn that. And our coaches will talk a little bit about that. And so they're going to come up here sort of one at a time in, you can't tell now the order because I moved it for you. I'm going to go backwards so they can see the order, sorry. We'll start with Megan Gillis, our women's ice hockey coach.
Hi, everybody. I'm just going to talk a little bit today about kind of general topics we talk about with our program, and hopefully they'll relate to what your son or daughter will experience now that they've arrived at Williams. So the overarching theme that we always talk about is how can we enhance and enrich your experience at Williams while ultimately preparing you for post-collegiate endeavors. So you don't want to hear about post-collegiate anything today because you're just dropping them off, but eventually you're going to be really happy when they get that, med school acceptance, law school acceptance, they go on to their first job. So it all eventually, unfortunately, links to that. But what's exciting for us coaches is that when they get here, hopefully they're at the most passionate point in their life about the sport and at the peak of what they've been trying to do in that sport for their entire life. They're not wondering what team they're going to play on next. They're not wondering what, coach is going to come watch them and scout them this weekend. They're just there on the Williams team with us, caring about those teammates because they're going to be the last teammates in this high level that they're going to have. So it's a really great environment for us to work with them in. What we do is we meet with the player each month that we're in season on the day that coincides with their number. So on the 9th, I'll meet with number 9, and we'll talk about everything. We'll talk about how school's going, how dorm life is going, but then we'll get into the nitty-gritty details that Lisa was alluding to before. Maybe they want to be able to perform as well on Saturday as they did on Friday, and they think nutrition is the key, so I might refer them to the college nutritionist. Or they want to work on the mental part of their game, so we talk about setting up a meeting with a sports psychologist. All of those resources we're fortunate enough to have here at Williams. The other piece is always going to be, how can I get more minutes? How can I do more for the team? What's that going to take? And learning to have those conversations and letting the players be good advocates for themselves is what's most important, because they need to learn those communication skills for later. They're going to have a boss that's going to be, a similar person that they look up to, like their coach. They're going to have managers, which are similar to their captain. So all those types of communication they're going to have to learn to be successful with. And we say being on the team is a great way to do that. So what we do is someone says, Coach, I know I can block a lot of shots. I can be one of the best penalty killers that you have. They're not getting as much time, so we'll break it down and say, okay, we'll find in the next month time for you to come and watch 2 video sessions and then come and be on the ice with us once in the morning, all around your class schedule, obviously. So we'll do that, and then they set a goal, and then we come in a month and we say, did you do this? If yes, then okay, we'll work them into getting some time working in at practice, and then subsequently hoping to get into that time in the game, but maybe not. And again, it's what Lisa talked about before. It's what are you saying when they call you on the phone? Are you saying, coach is stupid, they have no idea what they're doing? Is that the best way for them to kind of learn and develop, or are you supporting them and choosing the words to help get them through that adversity and help build character in those situations? Because most of the time they're Williams students, so they're really driven. They like to excel, and they'll find a way to help achieve those goals that they set for themselves. And how this, I think, all helps is then, last spring I felt like I spent a lot of time filling out med school recommendations, filling out law school recommendations, calling people's references for jobs, and I just kind of wrote a quick list of all the nice things I get to say after they've played sports for 4 years here. So they know about growth and development in regards to team play and what it means to set an individual goal in relation to a team goal. They know how to stay positive through adversity. They know how to be a good self-motivator. They become a good leader, and also subsequently they become a good follower. They have the ability to work with peer leaders and also their coach in constructive situations to kind of achieve their ultimate goals. And I think that's what's exciting for me to see, and what makes all those recommendations and the job process senior year easy to write, and why we often are lucky enough to get lots of emails asking. I see, Susie Williams is graduating, and, we love our Williams student athletes that we have working for us, and if she's interested, send her this job application. So that's kind of the piece that, even though it seems really far away for you today, really resonates with me, and I hope that they all have a great experience. So thank you.
I'm Kevin App, the men's basketball coach here. Just got done my first year at Williams as the head coach. I worked here as an assistant 7 years ago now. I keep forgetting to add a year to that every year. But after my first year, people ask me, what did you enjoy about being a head coach? And my wife will tell you is that I get to talk all the time now. But my players might not say the same thing. But I just wanted to briefly speak on my philosophy. I think our philosophy as a department is centered around that liberal arts model that Ms. Melendy touched on, and that we all see ourselves as educators. I think we're fortunate as coaches to work at a school that values that, sees their coaches as an extension of the faculty, and we take great pride in that. And so that's what we're trying to do is their entries, their classroom work, and then us on the athletic fields and courts are all part of their education here, and why they're so fortunate to be at Williams College. Our program, as a men's basketball program, has taken kind of our concepts as a department, and we talk about what are our 4 core values. When a student athlete leaves our program, what we want them to hold dear to them. And the first one is trust. We put a lot of trust in our athletes. They're what we consider the best and brightest. They don't always live up to that, but they are. So we put a lot of trust in them to make the right decisions. With us not being able to work with them in the off season, we trust that they're using their time wisely, doing well academically, and putting in the time athletically as well. You guys need to trust them and trust our coaching staffs. the parents of the men's basketball coaches in attendance, there's a letter probably waiting for you in your mail outlining how these core values extend to you, because that's the other thing I love about Williams is we're centered on relationships, and the parents are as much a part of our program as the student athletes. The other one we touch on is appreciation. I think Megan talked a little bit about it, but appreciate your time here at Williams and make the most of it. On Mountain Day, go explore the mountains. When we're with your team, hanging out, working hard in the gym, in the weight room, enjoy it. This needs to be an enjoyable 4 years because all of us probably wish we could have it back and do it again. So make the most of it. So we talk a lot about appreciating everything. For parents, appreciate that your sons and daughters are at Williams College. That's a tremendous accomplishment. Appreciate that they're going to struggle maybe for the first time in their lives, and that's fine, and it's good, and why they're here. And again, trust that there's enough people here to help them get through that struggle, and it's going to make them, better as a doctor, lawyer, businessman, whatever it might be. The other one we talk about is balance. That's a big. Our guys are probably sick of hearing the word. We extend all these values to how we want to play, our style of play on the court. But balance, I think, is what liberal arts schools are all about. We want our guys to learn how to be the best athlete, the best student, and the best person, son, friend, whatever it might be, while they're here. And this is a good time for them to experiment and learn how to do that. So when they graduate, they can be the best husband, the best father, the best employee that they can possibly be. So we talk a lot about balance. For parents, balance is balancing between being, a critic and a friend. Balance between being supportive and encouraging, all that stuff. Finding the right balance, the right voice when you're not around them every day, I think is important. The last part's selflessness. I think that coincides to how you want to be as a teammate, how you want to live your life moving forward from Williams College. I think they hear that in their entries in their classroom. When they go on to start their own company, give back. And they're hearing that in every avenue of Williams. So we try to extend that to the basketball court too. It's how we want to play. We want to be a great teammate. We want to encourage each other. We want to, again, have a great time, a great experience during their 4 years here. As a parent, selflessness is, again, understanding your son and daughter's role on their team is an important role, no matter what it is. I was a walk-on, didn't play a second. I like to tell myself I had, a lot to do with our team's success, and I firmly believe that. And I think as parents, it's important to understand that and let your son and daughter know that. And enjoy that when your teams that your sons and daughters on are going to have success while they're here. Appreciate it, because your son and daughter had a great part in that, and hopefully is building some lifelong relationships doing it. So. Again, those are 4 things we really harp on. We call them our pillars or our core values of our program. And again, we meet throughout the year and try to educate our guys in our program on how that applies to their personal life, their academic life, and their athletic life. And as the parents will learn, we try to talk with them about how it applies to them too. But again, I just wanted to say congratulations on your sons and daughters, being at Williams College. You guys should appreciate and enjoy it too. The other thing I always talk to our parents about, again, I told you I'll keep talking. So, get to know each other too. They're unbelievable families at Williams College. When you're here, when you're on Spring Street, get to know each other. And, it's you guys make lifelong relationships too. I can tell you about how many weddings my parents have been to in the last 4 or 5 years. It's none of their friends. It's my friends' parents, and make the most of that experience because there's some unbelievable people at Williams College. So thank you.
My name is Nate Hoey. I'm the head women's track and field coach here, and I wanted to talk briefly about our philosophy, which I think you'll find common threads in all of the programs here at Williams. Something that we talk about all the time is really aspirations versus expectations. Being track and field was perceived as an individual sport, but it's really a team sport. We have very, very high aspirations every year, individually with each person on the team and collectively as a unit with what we do. And we only talk about those high aspirations a few times throughout the year. Those are end results, end goals. But what we talk about every single day, I hammer it home all the time to them, are the expectations. And our expectations revolve 100% around the process and 100% around what they control individually, what we as a coaching staff can help control. We literally sit down at the end of each year, look at film, look at how they responded well to training or didn't respond well, and how we can make tweaks. And anything that they can't control, if it's another opponent, if it's another team, we just throw it away. We put everything into what specifically they control. So for example, let's just say we have a hurdler, and they have really high aspirations of a particular time that they want to achieve. And they are physically, mentally, emotionally completely ready. They execute a perfect race. And there's a 40-mile-an-hour headwind that day. Is that a failure? Because they didn't achieve that particular time? No, they executed a fantastic plan. And so that's why we don't put the emphasis on that end result. We put it on the process, on what we control and what they control. And that really, when you dive into that, that tends to set the table really well to put them in a position to achieve that end result and that aspiration as they go on. And things that they control and what we harp on every day are your attitude, your effort, and your execution. We want positive people in the program. There's nothing worse than what we call an energy vampire that just sucks the life out of a room. And so an example of one of those type of people is real life example. At some point, they're going to have a bad day. Their computer crashes. So let's use that as an example. Computer crashes. Example 1, energy vampire. Oh my gosh, my computer crashed. It was the worst. I couldn't do anything. I lost everything. I missed a paper. I got a bad grade because of that. Nothing is helping us with the situation because of that. So we flip the opposite side. I remember when that happened. Here, go to OIT. This person can really help you out. Realize you can go to that professor and get an extension, to get yourself ready to go. This is a teammate that is now helping them keep themselves moving forward in something that is process-oriented. So we always want a positive attitude. Effort, every single day they're in control of their effort. Are you doing what you need to do to achieve that aspiration, or are you just trying to check it off your list, get done, and move on to what's next? And then the execution, are they doing the workout the way they want it to be done? And all of this bleeds over into life and other stories on campus. Are they laying in bed when they study where they're probably going to fall asleep? Or they turn their phone off and find somewhere where they can have a good, productive work session? So those are 3 things they have 100% control of every single day. And when you do those, over time, you're going to put yourself in a great position to achieve that aspiration. And really, I mean, that's what it's all about and what we do. And focus on what you can control. When you do that, you'll be in a great position. And I think that'll really help everybody get off to a good start in the fall semester as they get going. But that's what we have philosophically.
So I'm Allison Swain. I'm the women's tennis coach here. I'm also an alum, and I'm starting my 9th year. And I just realized sitting here listening to these guys that I've been coaching here the longest of everybody on this panel, which is kind of crazy. I didn't really think I would get to that point here. And in the interest of getting to some of your questions and things you're wondering about on day 1 of your students' experience, I'm going to keep my comments pretty short. These guys have covered, I think, a lot about the philosophy of what we do when we try to coach and what success really means to us in terms of helping develop your child. I do want to say thank you for moving your kids in today and getting them here over this summer, over the past 18 years. When we go out and recruit and find student athletes that are the right fit for our program, it has so much more to do with just the ability level of your student or your child in their particular sport. And I think I speak for everybody when I say we're all really excited about each individual person coming into our program this year and what is to come. So hopefully you share that excitement with us and your child shares that excitement with us. So like I said, I was an alum and I played tennis here. And I'm going to tell a short story about me. My senior year, we had a very good freshman class, and I got taken out of the singles lineup in the spring. And in tennis, you're either playing in the lineup or you're not. There's no substituting. So once you're out, you're out. And I was taken out. And I had played singles in the program for all 3.5 years leading up to that, and I was devastated. And I, first thing, got on the phone with my mom. Told her how upset I was, told her how unfair the coach was being, all of it. Couldn't understand why this was happening to me. I'd worked harder that summer than I ever had, the whole thing. And I certainly had to be mad at somebody, and I didn't want to be mad at a teammate, so I was mad at my coach. My parents certainly sympathized with me a little bit. They talked to me about it, but they never called the AD. They never called my coach. They never wrote an email. And as a coach on the other side of things now, I've had all those things happen in similar situations. So thank goodness to my parents. Thank goodness they didn't do that, because I would have been mortified as a student athlete had that happen. But what they did do is they helped me get up the courage to talk to my coach and understand better how she came to the decision she came to and what I could do to make sure I was a valued part of the program. And it turned out at the end of the day, after having this conversation with my coach and getting up the courage to do that and having a few ideas of what I wanted to say, that I was still going to have a role in doubles. I was still captain of the team. She still relied on me tremendously for my leadership skills, for my work ethic. And we were still trying to do something as a team really special that year, and I was part of that. And by the time we got a little bit further into our early spring season, I was so excited about how I could help the younger players on our team, how I could help my co-captain, how I could be a leader on court at practice and in the doubles. And we won a national championship that spring, the first one for women's tennis here. And in that final match, one of the points we won was number 6 singles, the last singles spot. And doubles is played first, and I was actually sitting on court coaching that number 6 singles player, and I can't sit here today and say I would have won that match, because I probably wouldn't have, but she did, and I was there, and we won the national championship, and it all kind of came full circle for me. And success in our program and in these guys' programs is living up to our core values, to our philosophy, and being a great teammate, and becoming resilient and learning communication skills and all those things along the way. And so I believe that experience made me a better coach, made me a better adult and a better person. And somewhere along the line, whether it's in athletics or academics or in their social life, your child will have a moment like that. And I just want to encourage you to help them figure out how to work through it here on their own.
So I think, I won't paraphrase everything they said, but I think one of the main themes that I would just emphasize is that notion of your child at a point where they're advocating for themselves and speaking to their coaches themselves if they have questions. And sort of in closing, just sort of talk a little bit about, some of them have mentioned about your role as parents, as fans, and as members of our community. And sometimes I'd like to talk about the Williams athletic family that you get to now be a part of. And like in life, we don't choose all of our relatives. And sometimes there's a moment that you have a crazy uncle or something that does something a little crazy. When you go to games, just knowing that you represent us, you have your Williams hat on, your Williams sweatshirt, and we're super excited that you're there, but knowing that we're guests at other places or we're welcoming people, and again, generally, Williams parents are really great about that. But just so that you know that we're, like I said, you're good hosts and good guests. And one of the things I just want to talk about, we haven't talked about before in one of these, is we're working really hard as a college and as a department to decouple alcohol and athletics. You read about it in the news all the time, the impact they have, and you've probably, lots of people like to have a beer after a game and all that, I know that, but we're really trying to sort of separate those things out. And one of the things that we're trying to talk to our parents about, and you're the first group we've talked to about it, so we haven't talked to the upperclassmen yet, about lots of times people bring things to games, and this doesn't happen so much anymore, but would ask you not to bring alcohol for a post-game event with your team or on the field or at our events. There are not signs about no alcohol, and we're just asking you to partner with us about that and helping us in that work. And I also, before I let you go, want to reassure you on a few fronts that we're paying, one of our coaches mentioned it, paying close attention to the nutrition of our athletes. We're trying really hard to make sure they're being fed well enough on the road, so you don't need to hopefully worry about that. We're trying to work with the college and our coaches to make sure that we're meeting nutritional needs. We're also realize that we try to cover lots of the expensive for student athletes, but there are some pieces of equipment that they still need to buy. You might have to buy a pair of shoes or a piece of protective equipment like goggles in women's lacrosse or something like that. But we have established over the past 2 years a fund to help student athletes for whom some of these additional purchases are onerous. So if your student is on financial aid, I just want to make you aware there is some help for some of these items, and that if somehow the coach neglected to mention that, and that's a hardship for your athlete or your family, we're hoping to be more helpful around some of those things. So again, we're trying to take care of those. Occasionally, emails will go out from other parents on the team, and there's lots of great things about those and making those connections. And it might be about, hey, we're going to put a tailgate together, or we're all going to buy this piece of apparel, or all the kids are going to buy this, and we're ordering it. Just want you to know that those are all optional things. You don't need to feel like you need to pony up money or bring a souffle or buy the sweatshirt. The kids are fed, the kids are clothed. It's like, it's all okay. And that stuff is on us, not on you. You're already writing a check. So we're clear on that. And I'm sure we're gonna have another great year with all of our normal ups and downs, some in athletics for you all and some in other parts of the college. But we're really excited to work with your children. Again, this is one of the most exciting times of the year, actually, when the first years arrive, because you get to really see these people that you've been in communication with, and you get to see them in action, you get to meet them and get to know them as people, which is what our coaches mostly enjoy about coaching, is getting to know the student athletes. So they're excited about this new group of people who are going to bring a new dynamic and force them to coach differently and learn about different people. And for you, it's time to sit back and just watch and cheer and hold your breath and see how it all goes. And again, we're really excited that you and your students are here, and we'll have some time for questions. It's about 3:30 for those of you needing to get somewhere, but it's about 3:30. We have some time if you have questions for the panel or anything else you want to know about that we didn't cover.